Hey everyone, JP Laughtails here. Um, I wanted to create a video this week. I have one that I'm currently editing right now, but I didn't feel like editing it tonight. I didn't feel like editing it yesterday either. So I was trying to think of what could I do that's pretty easy that I could upload without doing too much work. And I think the easiest thing right now is to do a tier list. So I just popped up with a tier list from Romance Dawn all the way up to Egghead Island. And let's do this. Just for context, I've read One Piece through twice. I think I've watched it at least twice as well. This tier list will be based on the manga, not the anime, on the manga. That's very important because I feel differently about different arcs, depending on whether I watch it or read it. So let's start this stuff. So Romance Dawn, I think did a pretty good job of setting the story up, the Shank stuff, the idea of like dreams and stuff like that, and the juxtaposition of Luffy versus Kobe. I think Shanks is great. I think everyone up until this point still like loves Shanks, and he left a really big impact on the story. I'm gonna give Romance Dawn a solid A. I think that's a good place to put it. Something else I should note is that I am grading these heavier on what I think they were meant to do versus or like what they were setting up to do versus like comparing them to other arcs. So I'm kind of rating them individually, but I am also taking other arcs into consideration when I'm rating them. But mostly it's what I think it set out to do and whether I think it accomplished its goals or not. So next is Orange Town. Orange Town, I do have a bias, and that's mostly a bias against, and that's mostly because of, I think, the anime. Orange Town is usually the point where when I restart the anime and decide I'm gonna do a watch, it's kind of the place where it slows down for me, and thus I think I do have a bias against it because it's something that I've seen many times. I do think it's a pretty solid arc though, so I'm gonna give it a B tier. Again, the idea of treasure and what Luffy's hat means to him. The introduction of Buggy. Buggy is gonna be the Pirate King. More on that in another video, but that's my hot take. So let's do Syrup Village next. Um, Syrup Village also I think was a pretty okay arc. Introduced my boy Usopp. It was like one of the first times that we had like a crew dynamic going on. Before this, it was just really Luffy and Zoro. Nami helped, but I wouldn't say that she was like a part of the crew yet. She was really recruited during Orange Town. Syrup Village had Luffy, Zoro, Nami, and Usopp working together. I think that's pretty solid. Let's give it a B. Baratier. Baratier was when I think One Piece really started picking up. I think Sanji's backstory was amazing. Sanji's introduction, in my opinion, was like the most amazing introduction at this point in the story, and for a very long time for any other crew member. Only other introductions that I think can compare are maybe like Brooke. Brooke was hilarious at this introduction, but we'll get to that later. And Frankie. Frankie had a cool introduction as well. I'm a huge Sanji fan. I'm not ashamed of it. I think the only downside to this arc was Don Krieg. I do think he served his purpose, but I do think he, Pearl, and Ging can be a forgettable part of the story. I do love Gin, but Don Krieg and Pearl love them, but not the best villains to think about. So Baratie is getting an A. Arlong Park. This is honestly where it changes for most people. I think everything up until that point was set up really, really well. Um, I don't think I have any complaints for Arlong Park. I think Arlong Park is perfect. It did what it had to do. It set us up for the rest of the story. S tier arc, like easily. I should be organizing these, I guess, within the tiers as well, you know. I think Bharati is above Romance Dawn, if I'm gonna be serious. Okay, Loguetown. Loguetown, pretty solid arc, great transition, epilogue of the it's the epilogue of the prologue and the prologue, the end of the prologue, uh, to the rest of the story. Loguetown gets an A. Not many notes. The dragon stuff is amazing. Um, the stuff about oh, the stuff with Luffy on the execution platform being like, sorry guys, I guess I'm dead. Brilliant. I love the idea that Luffy was just like, you know, I have a dream, and if I die fighting for that dream, or if I die in the process of trying to achieve that dream, I'm completely okay with it. Strong character moment for Luffy. Definitely A tier arc. Reverse Mountain. Reverse Mountain I have no issues with. I'm giving it a B. I think it's a great lore and setup arc. It's like one of the first ones that we had, I think, that really like one of these transitionary arcs, like I would say Jaya, Amazon Lily, Sabaody, that kind of like have work as like a transition point into its world building, its lore, and kind of setting us up for what's to come. Um, Mountain is pretty solid. Love Laboon. Did it accomplish anything extraordinary? Not really, but I think there's nothing to complain about, really. Also, we got our introduction to Vivi, Crocus, um, and Mr. Nine. I like Mr. Nine. He's the homie. Okay, next, Whiskey Peak. Uh, Whiskey Peak has the cool Zoro moment, um, but the Luffy and Zoro fight was not it, and I think everyone agrees with that. It felt very out of character for them, and it's gonna have to go and see. I hate to give any arc a C, but it was an L. Oda doesn't take many L's, but that was an L. I'm sorry. Um, Next is Little Garden. So Little Garden, Dorian Broggy, love them. Great arc for Usopp actually. Great arc for Usopp. His introduction to the Giants, his kind of like them kind of giving him like a contextualization of his dream about like what it means to be a brave warrior and all of that. He also comes back with Karoo, I believe, to save Luffy. So great moment for him. I think this is a solid B tier, and I'm gonna put it. I'm actually gonna put Syrup Village at the bottom of the B tier, um, just because I think Syrup Village is an amazing arc. I'm actually might move Orange Town a little lower too. Uh, yeah, I think this is fair. Reverse Mountain, Little Guard. Yeah, I think these are fair. Drum Island. Love, love. I also love Wapol. I don't think he's a strong villain per se, but I love him as a character. I do think his henchmen are kind of forgettable. Chopper's backstory masterpiece. The entire like cherry blossom stuff in the end, beautiful, beautiful. Also very funny arc as well. I am stuck between A and B, but I think I'm gonna give it a high B just because of Wapol and his effectiveness, I guess, as a villain. Not that strong. Everything else though was A tier and respect it. Alabasta. I'm gonna give Alabasta an S. It was the climax of everything from Reverse Mountain. Crocodile amazing. Baroque Works amazing. Best organization probably in One Piece. Introduction to Miss All Sunday, Nico Robin. We had my boy Bon Clay and his clutch in the end. All the fights were also great. This was this was like our first like official like it set up the usual One Piece um everyone separates and does their individual fight kind of structure, which was great. Everyone's fight was really great. Usopp had some strong moments. Chopper had his like first real fight too with the crew. Um, Usopp being kind of like saved or avenged by Sanji. Also Zoro with his moment cutting metal for the first time. And then Luffy and all. Oh, when I read Alabasta the second time, I got goosebumps at that climax. When Luffy beats up Crocodile and he goes into the air and then it starts raining, chills. I also think that it's really well paced. Oda has this thing that he does, especially with arcs like Alabasta, where like you, it's like it turns into like a real page turner, in that you feel the energy building up to the climax, and I think Alabasta did that extremely well. I love it for that. Is there anything I'm forgetting that I really loved about that arc? Oh, the stuff with the mark on the arm, brilliant stuff. That moment when they're saying bye to Vivi and they put their arms up to show, that they haven't forgotten her, that they're with her, that she's a member of the crew, that she's family. Super powerful moment, iconic. Um, Definitely one of these moments in One Piece. So S tier. I might actually put it above Arlong Park. I think Arlong Park has the nostalgia going for it, which is it's not bad, but I think Alabaster over Arlong Park. Just because I think Arlong Park was kind of like Oda's introductory S tier. It was like the beta S tier. Alabasta was like he knew exactly what he was doing, and he was like re-implementing that same kind of energy that he was able to do in Arlong Park, just in a more refined way. Jaya. I actually really love Jaya. Jaya being a small arc though, it's hard. I really want to give it an S tier, but I think it is kind of, and this is where I'm like comparing kind of, it feels unfair to put Jaya in the same category as complete arcs like Alabasta and Arlong. But Luffy's entire interaction with Bellamy and the callback to what he learned from Ace, him avenging being the beginning of Skypiea and like pretty much opening up the world a bit. Jaya was one of these arcs that really another transitionary arc, but I think it introduced the world government at this point. It introduced Blackbeard. I feel like there was some Ace stuff, but I don't remember. Um, yes, there might have been some Ace stuff, maybe in the cover pages or something. Um, And then this also like the ship falling from the sky. What a way to start! The ship falling from the sky and like the giants in the clouds. Masterpiece. Jaya might be our top A right now because I think Jaya was a really powerful arc. Great setup for what was to come, not just in Skypiea, but what happened at the end of the story. Skypiea, manga Skypiea, manga Skypiea. Um, I am between S and A. I'm gonna give it a high A. I'm gonna give it a high A. And again, like not trying to compare, which I'm trying not to do. But I think Skypiea is really good. Where Skypiea loses points are its villains. They're pretty forgettable. The dude who forgot to breathe a lot. I don't remember his name. String guy, I don't remember his name. Ball guy, I don't remember his name. I loved it for the introduction of hockey. I loved it for the just the wonder and the adventure. I think Skypiea is like in essence a very One Piece arc, if it makes sense. It feels like the most One Piece arc in its purest form of like the fact of like going to a new place with a new culture, adventure, mystery, searching for treasure. It's a pirate story, and this is like one of the first or few times they're actually looking for treasure. Beautiful. The symbolism in Skypiea. And I'm not even talking about the campfire scene. The symbolism of Luffy being who he is and winning that fight by parting Enel's storm clouds with a giant golden orb. Oda, Oda, cooking. Um, Additionally, the climax of the bell, when the bell gets rung, chills. When Nami finds the other half of Cricket's house, chills. When You find Luffy's shadows in the sky, and it's a callback to the giants from the beginning of Jaya. Chills. Oda, you are a genius. You know what? I'm giving Skypiea an S. I'm giving Skypiea an S. After talking about it, there's just too many moments. I'm giving it the low S, but I think it deserves just because of its relevance to everything that comes after, because of how much it does for the story, because of how much it. I think it captures the true essence of One Piece. The introduction of dials, just like as a technology, also I don't remember what they call haki with their observation and everything. Enel as a villain also, I loved Enel, one of my favorite villains. Can't wait for him to come back from the moon. Yeah. Long Ring Long Land. This one is going to be controversial. I think Long Ring Long Land is. I'm giving it low A. Low A. Majority of the points come from the fact that people hate it so much, and I want to scorn them. But I will say I do actually really love Long Ring Long Land. I think it's hilarious. Again, I'm talking strictly from the manga. I think Foxy is hilarious. I actually do have an Afro Luffy and Foxy Funko set. Afro Luffy is brilliant. Love him. His most powerful form. Can't wait for it to return. Zoro and Sanji working together. Um, the old man, I don't remember what his name was. He was really funny. The milk and the cheese joke, genius. Everything with the animals, its impact when it comes to talking about the weather and the tides and stuff like that. The foreshadowing of the possibility of crew members leaving, and that's setting us up for Water 7. Brilliant as well. The Aokiji at the end. Oh my God. I think this was like our first like most embarrassing loss, I think. I think Luffy lost a lot in Alabasta, but I think Long Ring Long Land, his fight with Aokiji was the first time I think where he was like completely out of his range, like to fight this opponent. Um, Brilliant, great stuff. Let's move on to Water 7. Water 7, easy. S tier. S tier. So many emotions. There was so much going on. Everything was going crazy. We get there. Usopp's leaving the crew. Robin's gone. My boy Sanji. This is one of his best arcs. He's on his own, doing his thing, searching for. I mean, technically, it's Water Seven into Enies lobby. I count these two as the same. I'm gonna just do both of them right away. I'm gonna talk to them together because I think they're supposed to be spoken about together. The mystery. My first experience reading, Water Seven. I remember it. I really thought Kaku was gonna be the one joining the crew. I thought Kaku was so cool. I thought he was so likable. I thought he was gonna join the crew, and then it ended up being Frankie. I love Frankie also. Incredible introduction to a character. The mystery that was behind him. Um, Frankie as a character, I love him so much. I think he's so great. I think he is the most affable, the most understanding. I think he's the most dynamic crew member as well. He touches like every emotion or character archetype in terms of like just being like super emotional, but also super mature when he needs to be, super funny when he needs to be, super capable as well. He comes clutch in the story so many times. So perfect crew member. All the Robin stuff I want to live. Oh my God. The mystery. Oh, there's too much to say about what is Seven and Eddie's lobby. Um, and I think they're both S tier arcs. I think they sort of these two arcs to this day. There's only one arc that I'm like, maybe on a reread, which I haven't reread yet. It might come close to it. But right now we have Water 7 and Eddie's lobby as the top S tiers. Post Enies lobby. I did this separately because I do feel like it's its own thing. I'm not sure if post Enies lobby includes the Mary's funeral or not, but I do think that was an extremely powerful part of the story. Um, I do like all the world building it does, introducing us to the four emperors, introducing us to Garp as Luffy's grandfather. He was introduced kind of in the stories in the cover pages, but not by name or by titles. We also got to know about Dragon. We got everyone on the crew getting their bounty posters. Um, I think I think it was a pretty solid arc, and um, A feels high for it, but I do think it did what it needed to do. Um, Super solid short arc, accomplished its goals. If it was an essay that it had to write, solid A. Sorry, it's not B work. It's A work because it did what it had to do. It answered the question as requested. Thriller Bark. So Thriller Bark, I'm gonna cheat a little bit just because I'm currently watching Thriller Bark and I've realized everything else has been solely on the manga. Thriller Bark in the anime, at least at the point that I'm at right now, is hilarious. Thriller Bark is very funny. The first time I read Thriller Bark, I did not like it. Second time I read it, I liked it a bit more. I'm watching it right now. That is the funniest arc in One Piece. It is funny from the beginning. Brook is extra crazy in his introduction. So damn funny. Everything up until meeting Moria, which is where I've stopped right now, is extremely hilarious. Based off of that, and it might change as I continue watching or when I reread again, but this is the freshest memory in my head. I'm giving it a low A. Um, because I think it's funny. It does have Sanji's lowest moment. Sanji's my favorite character, and I accept that. It's not his best moment, but great arc regardless. The Kuma stuff, the nothing happened stuff, I really love it. So let's move on. Sabaody. Sabaody's getting us. Sabaody's getting us. The tone shift. This place is all fun and games and we're going to the carnival and then Kami gets kidnapped and then everything goes crazy. Not to mention the hilarious stuff with what's his name? The guy who had Sanji's wanted poster face. Can't remember his name right now. Um that shit was hilarious. But the tone shift when everything got serious, Luffy punching the celestial dragon, the introduction to the supernovas, um and everyone most probably one of the most impactful transitionary arcs that we've had so far. Lots of world building, the introduction of Kizaru, him showing up on the cannonball, and then him just being like a really chill, weird, interesting character. All of the pacifistas as well. The emotion of like everyone getting bopped away by Kuma. Oh, solid S. Loved it. Amazon Lily. Amazon Lily, I'm gonna give it a B. I'm gonna put it in above Little Garden, below Reverse Mountain. Just because I think it was an okay arc. Again, like it was like another transitionary arc that led us to Impel Down and everything that happened. The intro we got to explore hockey a little bit more with it in with Bo and everything. I don't think it did anything amazing, but I think it passes. And that's pretty much all I have to say about it, really. But I did like the connection to the Sun Pirates with and slavery and everything with Boa and her sister's tattoos. That was some great foreshadowing and world building there. Um, but yeah, pretty solid B. Um, Impel Down. Impel Down, I think, is an A. And I do love a lot of things about Impel Down, but I think where it suffers to not become an S tier is its pacing. I'm going to put it. Hmm, I'm gonna put it just above. You know what? Yeah, it's a highish A. Let's put Impel down above Barati. Pretty solid stuff. The introduction to Ivankov, Eva, and Bon Clay, and reintroduction and his sacrifice. Getting to see all these previous foes that we've known of, getting to see Buggy again. This is where Buggy really steps up again in terms of his reintroduction to the story. Technically, he had been gone, apart from cover stories, he had been gone for a while, and I think this is where like he really solidified. I think this is when Oda really decided like, oh, I think it. Let's make sure he has a bigger role to play in this story. So great stuff. Loved it. Um, yeah, Marineford, easy S, easy S. Where on the S scale though? You know what? Let's put it above Alabasta. Really solid arc. I think Oda did a really great job of like carrying the story without everyone but Luffy. I love the idea that Luffy used was in essence a big fish in a small pond, and he had this was like his ultimate L. He had a lot of L's on the way here, but like this was the proof that like, bro, you're not ready for this world. You are such a small fry. No one who like he walked in, everyone's like, "Who's this kid?" And they're like, "I think I've heard about him." He was not the main idea of this story until he became the main idea, I guess, to a certain extent. And what's interesting though is I do feel, and I think someone mentioned it, I can't remember where I heard it or read it, but I think at this point it the One Piece world is kind of reframed to be more about Luffy. At this point, I don't think anyone really cared that much about Luffy. I think Luffy was some guy causing trouble. I think to the Marines, when you look at who Ace is, who his father was, the crew he was on, his relevance in the world. I mean, he they wanted him to be a warlord at some point. I think Ace was the main character in the One Piece world. I think he was the guy to look for in the One Piece world. Not to us. To us, we were following Luffy's story. But I think in the One Piece world, he was the guy to look for. And I think at that point was when everything shifted towards Luffy, because of how much all of his feats. I hate to say words like that, but like because of all of his feats in Marineford, him being saved, everyone kind of like recognizing who he was, and like especially everyone on Whitebeard's crew and with Whitebeard kind of like rooting for Luffy to get to save Ace. I think there was a shift with that. Marineford is pretty self-explanatory. Whitebeard was amazing. Having all three admirals was amazing. Having Mihawk there, all the warlords there was amazing. There were so many like one-time characters who were introduced at that point who left such a big impact in the story, and I think it's something that's still felt today. Excellent arc. I still have Enies Lobby and Water 7 over it though because I think Enies Lobby and Water 7 are just more personal since they're more crew related to me, and I think there was a lot more emotional weight to these two compared to Marineford for me. But S tier. Post war. Post war I actually don't like that much. I think it was cool. I think I enjoyed seeing Luffy's backstory, the ASL trio, love Sabo, love Ace. I think it did what it had to do in terms of like showing Luffy's story. It is not something I will admit it's not something that I look forward to reading or rewatching whenever I get to that point. As a result, as a result, I am going to give it a high B. Uh, I'll put I'll still have Drum Island above it. Um, just because, yeah, I it's not something I look forward to. I think it was a pretty solid arc, just not amazing, and not amazing in terms of writing, just not amazing to me personally. Return to Sabaody. I think it's an A. I think it did what it had to do. They came back. They showed how strong they were. It didn't it didn't stay longer than it needed to. And I think it was just what we needed because I was reading weekly when Return to Sabaody came out. I think I caught up around Enies Lobby and Water 7, which is also probably why it's so special to me as well. But Return to Sabaody was I think they did a really good job and didn't overstay its welcome. Really solid power scaled our crew really. I'm not even a big fan of power scaling, but it felt like yes, we're back, we're ready, we're stronger, and we're picking up right where we left off. Also, the fake Straw Hat crew was a funny addition. I would really love to get figures of them at some point. I do not have space for that yet, but I will get figures of them because I love them. And I love that they actually I'm not gonna say anymore. Because spoiler alert. Where am I gonna put it though? I will put it gonna put it right below Impel Down and Barati. Between Impel Down and Barati. Just because I think it executed exactly what I needed to do and fantastic. It's not an S just because I think of the length. I just feel like it feels bad having it next to so many giants and but I do think it's S tier material in terms of exceeding expectations of what it needed to do. Fishman Island. Fishman Island, I think I'm gonna give it a B, just below Drum Island. I know a lot of people don't like Drum Island, Fishman Island, sorry. But I do think it is a pretty solid arc. It does a lot for world building, the Poseidon stuff. I love the Fisher Tiger backstory. I love the Straw Hats found like actually showing off their powers against the Fishmen. I love the recontextualization of the Fishmen and their stories. Pretty much going back to Arlong Park and doing a callback of like, here's the other side of things. And then also the how it spoke about how racism can affect people. I think Oda's done a good job of showing the different sides of racism and how oppressed groups may react to being oppressed through generations. Um, Hody, a lot of people don't like Hody Jones. I think Hody Jones was the kind of villain that he needed to be. I think even right now there are a lot of things going on where people are victims of decades, sometimes centuries of oppression, and they become villains because of it. Or radical groups are created because of it. And things happen because even if people haven't experienced that oppression themselves, like directly, they come from generations of oppressed people, and that hate is something that transcends generation. And I think that's what Holy Jones was. The whole like humans did nothing to me scene I thought was really powerful. I think on a first read it can be kind of weird, but it makes a lot of sense. It's very realistic actually. And yeah, I think it was it's a solid arc. I know a lot of people don't like it for the pacing in the anime, but I think it's solid. Punk Hazard is actually Punk Hazard is my least favorite One Piece arc. I hate Caesar. I think it was a very slow arc. I think it does a lot of prep for the story because it sets up everything, Kaido and Big Mom and Doflamingo onwards. It was just boring. Had some funny moments. The personality switches was funny, but it dragged. It dragged so much, and I it is my least favorite. It is actually my least favorite One Piece arc. So sorry, Punk Hazard. Maybe one day I'll like you. I'm not giving it a D though, because I do think it accomplishes its mission. I just think it was very slow. Dress Rosa. A lot of people really like Dress Rosa. I thought it was a solid arc. Um, it's not my favorite, and this could also be like my week to week experience. I'm giving it an A though. I'm not giving it a B because I do think it accomplished what it set out to do. I love the Grand Fleet stuff. I love the new Admiral, Fujitora. That stuff was really cool. Gear 4 was great. Um, Law's backstory with Corazon, I loved it. I also loved all of Dofi's crew members. The G guy, I don't remember what his name was, but everything was G. Baby Five's backstory was cool. I loved the fight with God, what's his name? Frankie and oh my God, Senior Pink. Love that fight. I thought it was hilarious. So funny, so funny. And Frankie stuff is always great. He really got to shine in that arc. I do really love the fact that Frankie was the one who asked Luffy if they could stay back to help the Tontatas. I think that was a really there were a lot of great moments. And this wasn't the only one. There were a couple moments. There were some I think in Punk Hazard, before this, when it came to crew moments of like Luffy just showing the crew maturing and them taking charge and making decisions and trusting each other a bit more. There are a lot of powerful moments in Dressrosa for this and Punk Hazard. I'll give it that. Um, so I do like that. So let's give it um low A. Zoe. Zoe was a really great arc. I think it's another A tier. Another great setup arc. The Raizo is safe scene. Goosebumps. I'm gonna give it an A. Because I it also set up a lot of stuff for Wano. And yeah, let's see, where would I put it? So So you're going just below Barati, just because Barati is just a little bit more memorable to me. Um, and yeah, we have a lot of A's. The A category is getting a little tight. Might have to bump someone down. Um, you know what? Let's put Dressrosa over here. Let's give Thriller Throwback actually might not be. No, actually, Throwback. Uh, let's say they're tied. Let's say Drum Island and Throwback are tied. Okay, Whole Cake Island. Whole Cake Island? Yes, Whole Cake Island. I liked Whole Cake Island. The that Sanji scene when he finds out what happened, what Pudding is up to. I remember reading that in real time, and I almost shed a tear. That was like one of my first like almost shed a tear moments in One Piece. Other than the Ace stuff in Marineford. I think Sanji had been through a lot. He is like a very self-sacrificial character. He had already done so much and just committed to like being part of this stuff, and everything just turning out the way it did. I understand. I felt what he felt. I think Whole Cake is a solid A arc. I do think the end was way too dragged out. The Big Mom chase way too dragged out. Brooke had some great moments though. I think Pedro's death was not as effective as it should have been. It was kind of weak for me, but respect to Pedro. Um, Brooke had some great moments. Nami had some great moments. But yeah, let's give Whole Cake an A. Where is Whole Cake gonna go? Whole Cake should go. I'm gonna put it above Barate only because of its extra Sanji stuff. Reverie, great arc for world building, for catching up with old characters. I will say for me, it sets up a lot, but I do think for me it's not as impactful. Um, I'm gonna give it a B. Yeah, let's put it above Fishman Island. Yeah. Hmm. Let's put it above Fishman Island, below Thriller Bark. Let's do that. Wano. Wano. So I was week to week when Wano was coming out. I have so many feelings about Wano. On my first read of Wano, I thought it dragged on for way too long. I did not like it that much up until the final fights. I'm not even a fight person, but I liked it up until the final fights. Robin saving Sanji, Sanji's fight, Zoro's fight, and then of course Gear 5, which I think is the best transformation in anime history. I think it's Gear 5 is just perfect for the story that One Piece is. It's also perfect for the art style. The first thing I thought when I saw Gear 5 was like, no other art style. People criticize Oda's art style so much. No other art style could have allowed Gear 5 to happen the way it does because One Piece is just goofy enough to not break One Piece to have One Piece exist in that story. Just in terms of the story as well, One Piece is just unserious enough to have Gear 5 conceptually. Um, a lot of people rate it as an S. Here's what I will say also. I think the anime ruined the Gear 5 reveal to me because I did watch the Gear 5 reveal. I thought my background's in sound engineering and music technology. This when the animation got better, it became blatantly obvious how bad the direction of One Piece episodes can be, how bad the sound design can be, and the anime ruined Gear 5 for me. I think the Gear 5 reveal and the end of Wano should have just been a movie or an extended episode, but they dragged it. They dragged it. And they knew everyone was hyped up. They had ads for the Gear 5 reveal before Gear 5 was revealed. And it was just really badly directed. There were reused clips. I to this day I still feel like they misused the library for like the Looney Tunes sounds. I think it feels like they use sound effects without the context of how they're supposed to be used. It just feels like someone who's never watched Looney Tunes or Bugs Bunny or anything, just like popping in sound effects randomly. And so, what our minds, those of us who have grown up with these sound effects, apply these the actions that we apply these sound effects to in our minds, it matches, it throws me off all the time. And I just think they need an entire new sound team for the anime. That being said, I wasn't gonna rate it on the anime. I'm just saying this is how I felt after reading. Third time I read it, sorry, the second time I read it, which is the first time all the way through, I thought Wano was really, really solid. I do think it was a little longer than it could have been, but I do think it was really, really well written on a reread and really well paced on a reread. So I'm gonna give it the high A. An Egghead. So I said earlier there's only one arc that I think that can compete with Water 7 and Enies Lobby. Reading Egghead Island on a week to week was a life-changing experience. I think Oda had no misses. I think the energy was up the entire way. I think there was an a completely obvious shift in Oda's deliberateness in his writing when it came to Egghead Island. There was just the Shanks stuff, the Blackbeard and Law stuff, the kid and Shanks stuff, um, the Garp and Aokiji and Black. Oh my God, there was so much happening. Not to mention everything that was happening on Egghead Island itself. I'm not gonna spoil for anyone who hasn't seen the anime, but the flashbacks. That being said, I have not reread Egghead. I am willing to give Egghead the number one title on a reread. I have not reread it yet. I'm waiting for the physical volumes to come out to reread it, because I want to read it that way and not using the app. That being said, I am giving Egghead the number three spot or number two spot if we count Water 7 and Ellie's lobby together. So that's my tier list. Thank you to everyone who watched. Um, I'm interested in hearing number one, like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you to everyone who's followed recently. I really appreciate from Philip Chase's video. Really appreciate you. I hope this page brings you a lot of joy. Me talking about this stuff brings me a lot of joy, so I'm very grateful for you guys. If there's any advice or things that you've heard me speak about that you'd want me to do a video on or expand on in some of my previous videos or even like in this one, please feel free to let me know because I do have some ideas of things that I already want to do, but it would be nice to hear what people want to hear more of. And if I feel like I have the ability to, I would love to talk about it. So I hope you have a good one and thank you for watching.